everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. We got an interesting show for you today. We're going to talk about sports betting in the media. We're going to talk about some of the new shows that are out and what I think of them, for better or for worse. We've got some Sweet 16 going on. And before we get into everything, I just want to point out, there we go, got it right. You can call in the show and leave a voicemail, questions, comments, concerns, ideas, bad jokes, whatever. 1-866-315-FLX1, extension 810. We have several shows here at FingerLakes1.com, and each show has its own extension. So just remember, if you do call in and leave us a voicemail, we may play your call on the air. So please be aware of that. So as we always do, let's get started by updating the bankroll. And we did not have a great week last week. We started out really good with the 2 Friday afternoon games, both winners, and then we kind of stopped there. We lost the last 4 of our picks. So let's take a quick review here. We had a starting bankroll of $583, and we had Oklahoma +1, and they won outright for +$17 profit. And we had the Cal Irvine Anteaters at +4.5, and they also won outright for a profit of $18. And then we had Friday night, we had VCU, which was a loss, -$19. Iowa State -5 was a loss and -$19. LSU on Saturday, which was a very disappointing loss. They won by 2, but we lost on the spread, -$19. And Villanova +4, they got blown out, -$19. So there's a net loss of $41. Our new bankroll is $542, and if you divide by 30, as we always do, the new bet size is $18. Interesting to me that those losses, except for the LSU loss, the VCU, Iowa State, Villanova, boy, those teams just had incredibly, incredibly poor outside shooting days. And it seems, it's this live by the 3, die by the 3 world we live in now with college basketball. I follow it somewhat through the season. I do not usually wager on it during the season. I usually throw a couple of bets down during the tournament, but a very interesting learning experience there. And it's, pay attention to how your bets, end up. Obviously you keep good records and whatnot, but you can discover some nuggets there that can help you moving forward. So that's it for the review. So today we're going to talk about sports betting in the media. And as sports betting is becoming legalized across the nation, there's an evolving attitude towards sports betting in the United States. And it was considered a social taboo. It was illegal in most jurisdictions, obviously, to accept wagers. There is some legal debate whether placing a wager is an illegal activity, and I'm in the camp that placing a wager is not an illegal activity. It's accepting a wager, running a sports book, that is illegal, which is why many people are not prosecuted for placing wagers with offshore sports books, because the DOJ determines that it's not a worthy effort of their time. We could split hairs on that for hours, but it's just interesting how the legality of the issue affects how the public perceives it. So now that there are more socially acceptable attitudes coming into play, new programming has popped up to take advantage of this growing betting marketplace. So there are a lot of people in the media business and in other businesses that see that sports betting is going to happen in the United States, in most states. There will probably be 1 or 2 that have very limited sports betting or no sports betting at all. But the majority of the states will have sports betting. So a lot of people see economic opportunity here, and that's why they're getting into it. And the last point I have here is there's very little that exists to educate bettors, and that's actually the impetus for this show. I started this show because I felt like there was a lot of things that could be talked about and explained to new sports bettors, people now that they have it available to them, and we'll have it here locally, I believe, within the next 2 months by Memorial Day. That will try sports betting because it is now available to them and not necessarily considered taboo and will be more or less in their faces. So, I try to do every show with some nuggets that people can take away and use in their sports betting as they go forward. And as we're going to talk about here right now, there are some more popular shows than mine that we're going to talk about, and where you can see them, and you can, if you don't agree with my take on these, you can watch them for yourself and decide which, if I'm right or I'm wrong, or if you agree or disagree. And these are actually in chronological order, except for the documentary at the bottom. These shows how long they've been on the air, and the first one to pop up is a show called "I'll Take That Bet." And it is hosted by the Action Network. They usually have two of their personalities go on this program, and it's, I believe, a half-hour program, and it's on the ESPN Plus app. ESPN Plus is a streaming-only service. If you have the ESPN app for your phone or for your Fire Stick or your Roku or whatever, you can stream for a couple bucks a month. You can stream their programming. And it's very similar to a show called Pardon the Interruption. And they have two talking heads, and they go through a list of topics, and they talk about some, important upcoming games, but they also talk about very silly topics about, silly prop bets and, which prop bet would you take? Would you eat 1,000 marshmallows, or would you eat, 100 hot wings? Or, they talk about silly betting things, and they obviously strive more for entertainment than for betting, serious betting information for somebody that takes the betting with a profit motive in mind. Now, I do have to say that some of these programs, they don't differentiate whether they're going for entertainment value only or they're actually going for professional information. And, I understand that as sports betting becomes more prevalent across the country, that these programs may pivot to more serious content. But I'll Take That Bet gets 2 thumbs down from me. They have not improved their program. It's very difficult to sit and watch for 30 minutes. They often have very silly topics that just make me want to turn it off. But you can check that out for yourself. It may also be available on the regular web. I am not sure. Then the next show to come up was a show called Lock It In on Fox Sports 1. And it is a kind of more of like an around the horn type of show, if you're familiar with that show on ESPN. There's 3 main hosts that are bettors of various degrees. Cousin Sal, Clay Travis, and Todd Furman. Now, I do want to point out that Clay Travis sells picks. Todd Furman does not, I believe, and Cousin Sal does not. And they have a moderator, which is a woman named Rachel Bonetta. And they give out picks every day, and they keep a 1-day window of record keeping. So they whoever had the best day gets the crown to wear or something like that. I've only seen the show once or twice, but the show has a lot of opinion and a lot of narrative, and they often make picks. I remember there was a show where they made a pick on a team without the odds even being out, which was very, as we talk here on the show, you bet the number, not the team. If you're going to take Team A, you want to take it at a certain number. And doing that without any number available is foolish at best. Again, differentiating between entertainment value and professional information. They go for entertainment value on Lock It In, but it is much better show than I'll Take That Bet. But still, not a thumbs down from me. It's not something that I would watch on a regular basis. The newest ESPN offering is a show called Daily Wager, and it is designed to be nothing but professional information. It is on ESPN News, which can be difficult for people to watch if they don't have cable, because it's very hard to stream that online if you don't have cable. But I got around to watching a few episodes and doing some reviews on it, and I actually I applaud ESPN for trying the show. It's on from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right before most of the evening's games start, and I applaud them for this effort, but the show is actually too busy. You have like what they call an L bar around the screen with they're throwing stats and odds at you, and then they switch people in and out over every couple minutes to talk about different sports and different games. They do offer a best bets section where they post like 5 or 6 wagers, and then again they have a 1-day window of accountability. If somebody's on a hot streak, they're going to say, "Oh, this guy's 6-0-1 this week." But if somebody's not on a hot streak, they're not going to say anything. So they do have some very good talent on that show. Sports Cheetah is on that show. Preston, his real name is, and he's a smart dude. I don't like the fact that he touts, but he doesn't promote any of his touting on that show. It is the best of those 3 that I've mentioned already. And if you are looking for some information on an upcoming game that evening, I would recommend just giving it a whirl sometime. It's very difficult. The amount of time they spend on any one particular event to get really good professional information. That's the thing. They just kind of throw so much at you that you don't really realize that they're not giving you very much to work with. There's always 1 or 2 gems on the show. And their hockey guy is not a big sports betting guy, but he does know a lot about hockey. It is what it is. ESPN promotes a lot of NBA content because they show NBA games. They don't promote a lot of hockey content because they don't show hockey games. But the best of those 3 is definitely worth checking out. And then the most recent addition to the sports betting television shows is a new show called Action that aired on Showtime last Sunday. It's a 4-part docuseries, 4 one-hour programs following some Vegas characters, their words, not mine, in action over last football season. And what was a real gut punch to me is that this documentary is the quality is very good. It was done by a high-quality production company, but 3 of their 4 main characters are people that either sell picks or have sold picks, and the 4th character is what's called a casual gambler, who is a self-proclaimed losing degenerate bettor and is not somebody that has, apparently does not have a profit motive for betting. We've only seen one of the episodes, so we don't know how it's all going to come out. So I can't make any predictions on the overall, quality of this. Maybe they will redeem themselves in the end. But the 3 main characters I'm talking about are Vegas Dave, Kelly in Vegas, Kelly Stewart, and Bill Krackomberger, Crack for short. And these 3 people all have blocked me on Twitter for one reason or another. And Vegas Dave is universally considered a scam artist, not a handicapper. He is a great marketer, but he is also a criminal. He was federally indicted last year and struck a plea deal for using false Social Security numbers. To give you the type of idea of what this person's all about, he's considered in the sports betting circles, he's considered a clown, and I'm hoping that the big reveal in the series is that he will be shown as such, because in the first episode they made him out to be like a really sharp guy, and he's not at all. Kelly in Vegas is a failed tout. She used to work as a bottle service in a Vegas nightclub. She literally parlayed a underdog parlay into a sports tout career. Now she's a host on CBS Sports Online and Wager Talk, which is a tout service. She doesn't sell plays anymore, apparently. She had losing records on Vegas Insiders, and she's a very attractive woman, and she can talk sports very well, but she's not. She says she's a handicapper, but my connections to Vegas, indicate that she is really not. It'll be interesting to see how they portray her going through. I understand her frustration of trying to break through in the sports betting industry as a woman, because there are not very many people there, and I can sympathize with that, and that's a good narrative for them to show on the show. But she has consistently proven over the last 3 to 4 years that she is not a winning sports bettor from her publicly documented plays. So I take her portion of the show with a big grain of salt. And now Bill Krackomberger, I have no idea if he's a winning sports bettor or not. He sells picks. He has his own website, and he writes articles for a sportsbook affiliate website called Gaming Today, and he appears on the VSIN, the Brent Musburger Network, often. And the thing is, I've listened to him on that channel because it's on satellite radio, and he's on with Gil Alexander a lot, who is a former tout that did not do very well, and they never talk about the actual mechanics of sports betting. They talk about old-timey Vegas, back in the day Vegas was like this, or they talk about a person from the past that they have mutual acquaintance with, and they talk about everything but sports betting, and that tells me a lot. It's either, if they did have a quantifiable edge, they don't want to discuss it at all. And I have no idea what Mr. Krackomberger does with his sports betting. I have if he's sharp or not. Showing him betting $2,000 or a game in South Point does not necessarily, during the football season, does not necessarily indicate to me that he, is somebody that is a high roller. That I have no idea. But all in all, again, you have a documentary series that is doing a storytelling job, and the storytelling needs to be entertaining for a wide audience, and that may be, going into things that experienced sports bettors will not like, and that seems to be the case so far. But we'll give action a chance to redeem itself. It's on Sunday nights. I got 3 more shows to go, and then this last one I want to mention, because it's available on Hulu, is a documentary called The Best of It, where it follows 4 sports bettors, 1 retired sports bettor, and then 3 other sports bettors. And it's available on Hulu. It's a documentary, about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Of all the things I've mentioned today, if I was going to recommend one of these for you to watch, this is what I would recommend. It talks about both the mechanics of sports betting, the psychology of sports betting. It has some twists and turns, and it portrays, I think, sports bettors in a realistic light, not necessarily glamorous light. You have, an older gentleman. Well, I don't want to give you too many spoilers, but you have the retired gentleman and what his life is like after sports betting. You have, a couple of professional sports bettors that, that just seem to, they're so absorbed by what they do. It just seems they shut everything else out. That's about as far as I'm going to go. But of all of the things that I've talked about today, that is the best option for you if you're willing to spend the 1 or 2 hours. So that's it for sports betting in the media. I hope it improves as time goes on. I hope my show improves as time goes on. But let's get into some handicapping this week. And we're going to start with the NHL on Friday. We got the Blues at the Rangers. The Blues, Rangers out of the playoffs. Young players, you don't know what you're going to get. The Blues could use the points to shore themselves up in the standings. Don't like the odds here. Going to pass on that game. Predators at Penguins. Here's a great game. Both of these teams needs points. If Matt Murray's going, I like the Penguins. The Penguins are not a lock at home. They are not. They had some real letdown games. But it depends on the goaltending matchup here. Devils at the Red Wings. Red Wings won in overtime last night in Buffalo. The Red Wings are actually playing pretty well. I don't know what the lottery odds are, but the Devils have really, it depends who they put in goal. If they put Corey Schneider in goal, I like the Red Wings here. That's a pretty decent price. The Ducks at the Flames. The Ducks are playing, their young guys are getting all the ice time, and they're playing pretty well. The Flames do not need points to make the playoffs, but they want to get that first seed. If they put Mike Smith in goal, I kind of like the Ducks. This price is really juicy. So we'll see where that ends up in my picks. Coyotes need this win at Avalanche for a playoff spot. Avalanche also fighting for a playoff spot. Coyotes, must-win game for them. Darcy Kemper has been their go-to guy, has played well. They just beat the Blackhawks. I don't know if he'll get fatigue, but I like that number. Coyotes are a young team playing well. And then the Wild at the Vegas Golden Knights. The Wild, it's a good number for them, but they have not played consistent at all. Vegas is just lights out. They're my pick in the West. Even with Malcolm Subban in goal, all the additions they made at the trade deadline really helped their team. So we'll see what we have in our picks there. And then moving straight on to the Sweet 16, we got 4 games left in the Sweet 16 tonight. These are going in order of when the games start. And we have LSU versus Michigan State -6.5. LSU had their last opponent down 18 points, and they ended up winning by 2. It was Iowa, I believe. And Michigan State handled their opponent, I believe, by about 10. I really like LSU here. I've been betting somewhat against the Big Ten in this tournament, much to my detriment, but you could see how Michigan did last night. Again, that's another shooting performance. Michigan was 0 for 12 from 3, or 0 for before they hit their first 3, 0 for 15, something like that. You're not going to win games. If you go 0 for 10 from 3, you're not going to win the game. That's just the way it is in today's college basketball. So LSU has some really good inside players. We'll see. I feel like they can keep this game close, so I like the points there. Auburn versus North Carolina, -5.5. I've said that North Carolina was my futures pick. It was my best value futures pick to win the NCAA. It was 11-12-1. Now it's down to 5-1. And after this game, they'll probably be down to 3-1 or 2 plus 250, something like that. I think they could cover Auburn. Auburn's going to want to. If Auburn wants to go tempo, this is the worst team for them. of the teams that are left. Maybe Gonzaga is the other team they don't want to go tempo with. Virginia Tech versus Duke. If this game was 10, I would be all over Virginia Tech, but 7 is tough. I don't know if Jack White's going to be available for Duke. But Duke is, I heard on the radio this past week, 40% from 3 is not, they're 30% from 3 when they're usually a 40% from 3 team. So that's a factor, and Virginia Tech likes to be up tempo. So it'll be interesting to see where this game, who controls the tempo in this game, and that's really going to decide who covers. But I think Duke is going to win. And then Houston versus Kentucky. Kentucky's leading scorer is not available. They showed him on a scooter with his knee, his foot in a boot, and that line is very adjusted. I would say it'd probably be 5.5 if he was available. But I like Houston. They've got Kelvin Sampson is a good coach. It's one of those. Houston is not deep. That's their Achilles heel. So, a bad shooting day for either one of these teams could put them down. So, I don't know. That game's kind of a stay away for me. So, those are the Friday games, and we've also got Saturday Elite 8. We got 2 games up and lined already. We have Purdue and Virginia minus 4.5. Purdue really looked impressive last night. It'd be interesting to see if their height can give Virginia problems. Virginia minus 4.5. Boy, it's you expect that game to be close. I lean Virginia here because I don't think Purdue is going to have another shooting game like they just had. I mean, they were insane from 3 last night. So I kind of lean Virginia in the points there, but I would like to see that go down to 3.5. And then Texas Tech versus Gonzaga. Texas Tech has been amazing defensively this whole tournament and playing the number 1 seed Gonzaga. Gonzaga's only giving up 4. This is one of those games where I think if Gonzaga can put 70 points up, it's going to be easy peasy. So it'll be interesting to see how they try to push the tempo against Texas Tech, try to make it a running game as much as possible. That's what I would do. We'll see where that goes. And if they can do that, I certainly like Gonzaga. So that's it for the weekend in hoops. And before we check out, let's go ahead and take a look at my picks for this weekend and Friday night NHL. We have the Coyotes plus 133. Must win for them. They're trying to sneak in the playoffs. Boy, that team is really starting to gel. If they can pick up a decent goaltender in the offseason, they could be very tough to deal with next year. I like the Ducks plus 1, about plus 150 there. Sam Steele just came off a hat trick in his last game. If John Gibson plays against Mike Smith, I think that's something you want to look at. And then Friday night, we have LSU minus 6.5, minus 107. LSU plus 6.5, minus 107. As I said, I think that game's going to be very close, and that's a lot of points. North Carolina minus 5.5, minus 109. I think they're the best team left. I don't know if who they're going to play in the semifinals, but the 2 teams I like remaining are both Gonzaga and North Carolina. And then Virginia minus 4, minus 108, 4.5. It's kind of fluctuating. Virginia minus 4, I really like. They're going to have to hit their free throws, and they're going to have to hit their threes. But I think Purdue comes back to earth after their big game. So there we go. Maybe we can get a winning weekend before we get to the Final Four here. And then also next week we'll talk some baseball. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Going to play the outro music for you, and let's get some winners. Take care, everybody. Thanks for watching.